set operators in composite queries. Union all simply allows us to find all the duplications. So in the case of an act and a supporting ID, where the supporting act is actually a duplication of an act record, but in a special type of table, if you did a union all query, the chances are you'd find the same act twice, because supporting acts are also acts and they are stored in the act table as well. Union would only find acts that are not supporting acts because it would remove the duplication supporting act records. An intersect would effectively find only the supporting acts because it finds the records that are in both tables. And a minus would actually find only the acts because it would take all supporting acts out, which are effectively acts as well, so it removes any act that is a supporting act. So now let's go and look at some examples. And here is my example script. I'm simply going to copy all these examples and plop them straight into here. Go up to the top. And what do we have here? Well, first of all, let's go and look at the data model. Why do we need to look at the data model? Because I want you to understand what exactly you're looking at. So here we have an act up here and we have a show. Acts are musicians, stage shows, etc. that do shows at venues. You have supporting acts that are also acts, but they happen to support an act at a specific show. They may be a primary act at a different show, or they may have supporting acts at other shows as well. Essentially what we do is we take a combination between an act and a show to create a supporting act, which is an extra act at that same show. So let's get back to the data again, just so you understand the background. Here I'm taking the act ID from the act table. I'm just finding the acts, the data in the act table. I go down here, I'm actually taking the act ID, and within there I'm actually selecting the name from the act table. So I'm linking the act table and the supporting act table. These are all my supporting acts based on the way that I pulled the data. And what it's actually done is it's found every supporting act and then linked it with the act table, so it's got duplications come out. That's why it's got dupes. Now we find distinct to solve that problem and find the distinct supporting acts. So these are acts down here that are registered as supporting acts. They don't necessarily always support. They may sometimes have their own supporting acts. They may sometimes be the primary at a show or the only act at a show. But what we're going to do here is we're now going to do a union all between the act and the supporting act. It's going to find everything. So as you can see, if we go back to here to find the supporting acts, up here we have Tom Petty, Bob Dylan. Click down here. Here you can see we have Bob Dylan. If we scroll down, we are going to find Tom Petty somewhere here. There we go. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers with Jackson Browne is something different, obviously. So now let's do the union. Remove any duplications. And it's slightly different. Basically, we've got 59 rows there. Go back up to the previous query. And we've got as you can see here, we've got 59, 59, 59 duplicated. It's found basically the supporting acts and the non-supporting acts and basically pulled out the same data out of both tables because it occurs in the supporting act table and the act table because one defines the other based on the model. The intersection effectively finds nothing. The intersection here, so let's just run this one. And oh, we find nothing. Well, act and name linked with act and actually blank. So even though the act IDs may be the same and they may intersect, name is not the same as blank. In other words, Tom Petty will not be found and matched with empty. So we could actually find the intersection like this, excluding the name columns. we actually can't do this under any circumstances. So if I was to actually change this to a union quickly, we'll have to stash this in a file. If I go and do this, take that column out, that will give me an error because it has the incorrect number of result columns. You have to have the same number of columns in all queries across the composite, otherwise it can't match them. That's why I put empty there. I could have put null, so I could have done this just to fill in the column. Otherwise the set operator just gets completely confused. We can do that. I will stash that in the file. Now let's go back down to here. That's the intersection. Let's take this as a union. From the supporting act table, I'm going to find both of these guys. Because they are supporting acts at multiple events, they obviously appear more than once.